29 fucking wild facts about movies. In Toy Story, Buzz Lightyear's original name was Lunar Larry. After a lot of back and forth, it was eventually changed to honor real-life astronaut Buzz Aldrin. There was a specific production budget set aside for cocaine during the shooting of the Blues Brothers. During the filming of a scene in Django Unchained, Leonardo DiCaprio accidentally cut his hand open. He stayed in character though, and ultimately wiped the blood on Kerry Washington's face. In the scene from Poltergeist where JoBeth Williams swims through a pool of bones and skulls, she wasn't diving with props. They were real dead bodies. Similarly, all of the worms and snakes in the final scene of The Craft were real. Natalie Portman was originally cast as Juliet in Romeo and Juliet when she was 13 years old. However, the age difference between her and leading man Leonardo DiCaprio proved problematic. That wasn't the only dramatic occurrence on the set of Romeo and Juliet. One of the movie's hair and makeup artists was kidnapped by gang members and held for ransom. He was returned by being thrown out of a moving car which caused him to break a leg. Paul Battison, who played an X-ray technician in The Exorcist, was a convicted murderer who dismembered and killed a series of gay men in the 1970s. The production team on All the President's Men spent $450,000, close to $2 million today, creating an exact replica of the Washington Post's offices, which even included their trash. O.J. Simpson was almost cast as the Terminator, but James Cameron thought he was too pleasant to portray a dark character. Gene Kelly performed the title number in Singin' in the Rain, with a fever of 103 degrees Fahrenheit. The sound of the velociraptors in Jurassic Park is actually a recording of two tortoises having sex on a loop. Just 1 minute of The Nightmare Before Christmas took an entire week to film. The stop-motion musical had 24 frames to a second, meaning they had to pose characters 24 times for each second of completed film. That consisted of roughly 110,000 frames, meaning 1 minute took a week to film, and the movie itself took 3 years to complete. Most of the dialogue in the Blair Witch Project was improvised. The cast were only given notes outlining the general direction of the narrative for that day's filming. The cast also had to use GPS to find supply crates which contained power bars, fruit and water. The directors purposefully gave the actors less and less food each day in order to create conflict. By the end they were only given a piece of fruit and some water. There's a scene in Lord of the Rings. The Two Towers where Aragorn kicks a helmet, screams in anguish and falls to his knees. It turns out the reason for his reaction is because he actually broke a toe. Daniel Radcliffe was supposed to wear green eye contacts throughout the Harry Potter movies, in keeping with the description of the character in the book. However, he found them so excruciatingly uncomfortable that they just decided Harry would have blue eyes instead. Jeremy Irons developed vocal problems midway through recording the song Be Prepared for the Lion King. The song was completed by Jim Cummings, aka the voice of Winnie the Pooh. In 1940, Gone with the Wind actor Hattie McDaniel became the first ever African-American actor to win an Academy Award. However, thanks to racial segregation, movie executives had to beg for her to even be able to attend the ceremony, where she was then seated at a small table at the rear of the venue away from her fellow nominees. The poster for Just My Luck features a paparazzi photo of Lindsay Lohan. In fact, the studio loved it so much that they decided to change the movie's tagline to "Everything changed in the wink of an eye." The famous Star Wars "I love you I know" interaction wasn't actually in the original script, but suggested by Harrison Ford. After suggesting that Princess Leia say, "I love you," in the scene, Ford then told the director that his character should respond with, "I know, because it's beautiful and it's acceptable and it's funny." Robert De Niro paid a dentist $5,000 to mess up his teeth for the role in Cape Fear, and then $20,000 fixed them afterwards. For his role as a drug addict in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Charlie Sheen stayed awake for 48 hours straight to achieve an authentic look. James Cameron spent more time with the Titanic on diving excursions than the original passengers did on the ship. Cameron's commitment to authenticity throughout the movie helped solve a mystery about the shipwreck. When the wreck was found, the grand staircase was missing, and no one could figure out why. Cameron had the movie set built as an exact replica, and while filming the sinking sequence, the stairs lifted from their foundation and began to float. It was therefore concluded that when the real Titanic sank, the staircase had similarly floated up and out of the ship. After an astrophysicist contacted James Cameron to tell him that the constellation of stars Rose looks up at while on the door in the ocean was wrong, he re-edited the scene for the 10th anniversary director's cut. This updated version means that the constellation we see on screen is the exact same as on that fateful night in 1912. The man at the end of Titanic drinking from a flask was based on a real passenger who survived in the Atlantic as a direct result of his blood alcohol level. If all of the present-day scenes in Titanic were deleted, leaving only those taking place in 1912, the film would run for 2 hours and 40 minutes, the exact time it took for the Titanic to sink. And, finally, during a celebratory meal midway through filming Titanic, the entire cast and crew were poisoned with PCP spiked clam chowder. To this day no one knows who was responsible.